There will be a day when something you are sure you will keep is suddenly gone. A person, a job, a plan, a version of your life you built in your mind. And in that moment, the mind asks a painful question. Why is life doing this to me? But what if the real question is different? What if the question is, what am I holding so tightly that it has become my suffering? Tonight, I want to share a teaching that does not ask you to become calm by force. It shows you why calmness can arise naturally, like clear water settling when the hand stops stirring. This is the heart of the Buddha's wisdom on impermanence, on non-clinging, and on living fully without being dragged by fear. Before we begin, take one slow breath, not to escape your life, but to enter it. Welcome, dear friends, to Buddha Peaceful Mind. If you are carrying worry, grief, anger, or a quiet heaviness you cannot name, you are not alone. Stay with these words gently, like you would sit beside a fire on a cold night. The Buddha did not teach that life should always go the way we want. He did not promise a world where nothing breaks, no one leaves, and plans never change. He pointed to something simpler and far more liberating. Everything that arises will pass. This is not a cold idea. It is a compassionate one. Because when you see impermanence clearly, you stop blaming yourself for what was never meant to be held forever. You stop demanding that life sign a contract it cannot sign. Many people misunderstand impermanence and think it means nothing matters. But the Buddha's path is not the path of indifference. It is the path of wisdom, love, and effort without chains. Imagine holding a small bird in your hands. If you squeeze hard because you are afraid to lose it, you hurt it. If you open your hands gently, the bird can rest, and it can also fly when it is time. That gentle openness is the flavor of the Buddha's teaching. The mind suffers not only because things change, but because the mind argues with change. It says, this should not be happening. It says, I cannot bear this. It says, if I lose this, I will be nothing. The Buddha taught us to look directly at these thoughts, not to fight them, but to understand them. Understanding is the root of peace. When understanding is deep, calmness is not a performance. It is a natural result, like shade appears when a tree is tall enough. There is a famous story from the time of the Buddha. A young mother named Kisa Gotami lost her child. Her grief was so sharp that her mind could not accept reality. She carried the child from house to house, begging for medicine. Some people turned away helpless. Some looked at her with sadness. Finally, someone said, "Go to the Buddha. Perhaps he can help." Kisa Gotami came before the Buddha and pleaded, "Please give me medicine to bring my child back." The Buddha did not argue with her pain. He did not say, "Stop crying, accept it." Instead, he offered a task. He said, "Bring me a handful of mustard seeds, but they must come from a home where no one has ever died." Hope rose in her heart. She went from door to door asking for mustard seeds. People were kind. They offered seeds easily. But every home had known death. A father, a mother, a child, a friend. As Kisa Gotami walked, something in her began to soften. Not because her love became smaller, but because her understanding became wider. She saw that her grief was not a personal punishment. It was part of the human condition. She was not singled out by cruelty. She was living the truth of impermanence. She returned to the Buddha, empty-handed, but no longer lost in delusion. And from that understanding, a different kind of strength arose. The strength to mourn without drowning. The strength to love without demanding that love freeze time. This is not a story about forgetting. It is a story about waking up. When the mind wakes up, it can hold grief without turning it into endless suffering. The Buddha also used a simple image to explain suffering. He said that when a person is touched by pain, it is like being struck by an arrow. Pain happens, loss happens, sickness happens, separation happens. This is the first arrow. But then, if the mind says, "Why me? This is unfair. I cannot stand it. It should not be like this. I must make it stop right now." The mind shoots a second arrow into the same wound. The second arrow is resistance, blame, panic, and the burning need to control. The first arrow may still hurt, but the second arrow is optional. It does not disappear because we repeat positive words. It disappears when we see it clearly and stop pulling the bow. Impermanence teaches us to stop firing the second arrow. Not by becoming numb, not by pretending nothing matters, but by learning the skill of allowing life to move without turning movement into war. When you feel a storm inside, you can ask, is this the first arrow, or am I adding the second? Is this pain, or is this pain plus the demand that the world obey my fear? Many of our storms come from praise and blame. One day a villager came to insult a wise monk. He shouted harsh words and tried to provoke anger. The monk listened quietly. The villager became even more frustrated. He asked, "Why are you not reacting?" The monk replied with a question. If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong? The villager paused and said, "It still belongs to the one who offered it." The monk said, "In the same way, I do not accept your anger. It remains with you." Whether or not this story happened exactly like this, it carries a powerful point. Praise and blame are like packages. If you grab them quickly, you carry their weight. If you observe them with wisdom, you can choose what to accept and what to leave. When you understand impermanence, you see that praise is changing weather. Blame is changing weather. Fame is changing weather. Reputation is changing weather. To build your peace on weather is to live with constant anxiety. So the Buddha invited us to build peace on something steadier. Understanding, ethical action, and a mind trained in awareness. A monk once practiced meditation with fierce intensity. His body became thin. His mind became harsh. He believed that suffering was proof of progress. The Buddha asked him, "When you played the lute before you became a monk, what happened if the string was too tight?" The monk answered, "The string would snap." "And what if the string was too loose?" "It would not make a clear sound." The Buddha said, "In the same way, practice must be balanced, not too tight, not too loose." This teaching matters deeply when we talk about impermanence, because some people hear, "Everything changes," and they stop caring. Others hear, "Everything changes," and they panic and try to control everything. Both are extremes. The middle way is to act wholeheartedly without clinging. You can strive without squeezing. You can love without trapping. You can build without believing your building will last forever. You can grieve without drowning. You can succeed without arrogance. You can fail without despair. This is not a theory, it is a skill. And the skill is trained moment by moment. Now let us bring these teachings into the heart of daily life. Impermanence is not only in dramatic losses, it is in ordinary moments. A cup of tea cools, a smile fades, a mood changes, a thought appears and disappears. A body ages quietly, even while we sleep. If you sit for a few minutes and watch the mind, you will see it. A thought comes, it stays, it leaves. A feeling rises, it swells, it falls. This simple observation is a doorway. Many people try to control the mind by force. They try to push away sadness. They try to crush anger. They try to silence fear. But force often creates more conflict. The Buddha taught mindfulness, not as a fight, but as a clear seeing. When you clearly see a feeling as a feeling, it loses the power to pretend it is you. When you clearly see a thought as a thought, it loses the power to command you. You can say gently in your mind, "This is sadness. This is fear. This is craving. This is irritation. This is hope. This is disappointment." Not as labels that freeze experience, but as recognition that creates space. In that space, you can choose, and choice is freedom. There is a simple reflection the Buddha offered. Whatever is subject to arising is subject to ceasing. You can reflect on it when you are attached. This pleasure will change. This pain will change. This situation will change. This person will change. This body will change. At first, the mind may feel uneasy hearing this, because the mind wants permanent security. But if you stay close, you will notice something surprising. When you stop demanding permanence, you start tasting gratitude. You drink water and you know it will end. So you drink with presence. You talk to a loved one and you know the moment will pass. So you listen more deeply. Impermanence is not the enemy of beauty. Impermanence is what makes beauty precious. A flower is not less beautiful because it will wilt. Its short life makes its colors shine more brightly. In the same way, your time is not less meaningful because it is limited. Your time becomes more meaningful. So the teaching is not, do not love. The teaching is, love without chains. Love without the hidden demand. Stay exactly as you are, or I will collapse. When you love with wisdom, your love becomes kinder. It becomes less hungry. It becomes less fearful. It becomes more like a lantern that gives light, not a hook that grabs. There is a simple story that helps many people understand how impermanence and imperfection can still serve goodness. A water carrier had two pots. One was perfect. The other had a crack. Each day the cracked pot arrived with less water. It felt ashamed. It apologized to the carrier, saying it always failed. The carrier smiled and said, "Have you noticed the path we walk? Look at the side where you leak. There are flowers along the road. I planted seeds there. Because of your crack, the seeds received water every day. Because of your crack, the road became beautiful." Impermanence does not mean your life must be perfect to be meaningful. Your changing moods, your old wounds, your mistakes, even your losses can become part of compassion. When you stop fighting your own imperfection, you become more gentle with the imperfection of others. This is how wisdom turns suffering into understanding, not by decorating pain, but by learning from it. Let me share a small story from modern life. A man worked for years to build a business. At first, it grew quickly. People praised him. He felt proud, and he began to believe the praise was his true identity. Then the economy changed. A partner left. A sudden event disrupted everything. The business collapsed. He fell into darkness. He said, "I am a failure." He avoided friends. He felt ashamed. He thought his life was over. One evening, he sat alone and listened to a simple talk about the Buddha's teaching. He heard, "Success and failure are changing conditions. They are not a fixed self. They arise and they pass." He heard, "Your worth is not a stock price. Your mind is suffering because it is clinging to a story." At first he resisted. He said, "Easy to say." But slowly he began to watch his own mind. He saw how often he replayed the past, trying to control what cannot be controlled. He saw how he fired the second arrow again and again. He began to practice a different response. He said, "This is loss. This is sadness. This is fear." And he breathed. He asked, "What can I learn? What can I do today that is wholesome, even if my life is not perfect?" He did not become calm overnight, but week by week, his shame loosened. His identity became less rigid. He found a new job. He repaired relationships. He became kinder to himself. And something surprising happened. He said, "I am not grateful for losing the business, but I am grateful for what the loss taught me. It taught me that my peace cannot depend on conditions that always change." This is the middle of the Buddha's path. Do what you can, learn what you must, and do not attach your soul to outcomes. The mind loves control because control feels like safety. But control is often an illusion. You can plan, you can prepare, you can work hard, and still, life can turn. The Buddha did not ask you to stop planning. He asked you to stop clinging to plans as if they are life itself. A plan is a tool. A plan is not a throne. When the tool breaks, you do not break with it. If you want to know where you are clinging, look at where you are most tense. Look at what you cannot stop thinking about. Look at what you fear losing. Look at what you are trying to force. Then ask gently, "Can I hold this with open hands? Can I care without gripping? Can I act without demanding certainty?" Sometimes people think non-clinging means not having goals, but the Buddha's teaching is more subtle. You can have intention without attachment. You can aim without tightening your heart. You can walk toward a direction while knowing the path may change. Think of a sailor. He uses the wind. He sets the sails. He watches the sky. But he does not order the ocean to be still. Non-clinging is the wisdom of sailing. The Buddha offered another famous image. He said his teachings are like a raft used to cross a river. A person is on one shore of suffering and wants to reach the far shore of freedom. So they build a raft and cross. When they arrive, they do not carry the raft on their head and continue walking with it. They leave it behind. The raft did its job. This is also a teaching about impermanence. Even spiritual practice is a tool. Even ideas must not become chains. Clinging can hide anywhere. It can cling to possessions. It can cling to relationships. It can cling to opinions. It can cling to being right. It can even cling to a spiritual identity. The Buddha's path is always pointing toward release. Release from what is unnecessary. Release from what burdens the heart. Release from the second arrow. So as you listen to this talk, do not cling to these words. Use them as a raft. Let them carry you toward calmness. Then let them go and meet your life directly. Let us speak clearly about emotions. Some people hear, "A wise person is not shaken," and they try to become stone. They think spirituality means never crying, never feeling anger, never being touched. But that is not freedom. That is armor. The Buddha did not praise numbness. He praised understanding. A wise person can still feel sorrow when someone they love suffers. A wise person can still feel pain when the body is injured. But because they understand impermanence, they do not build a prison out of it. They do not say, "This must not be." They do not say, "My life is ruined." They do not say, "I cannot bear a changing world." They say, "This is what it is like to be human." They respond with care. They respond with patience. They respond with compassion. So calmness is not the absence of feeling. Calmness is the absence of inner war. Calmness is the mind no longer fighting reality. You can be tender and calm at the same time. You can cry and still be wise. You can grieve and still be free. When the heart becomes wide enough, emotions become waves on a large ocean. Waves rise and fall, but the ocean remains vast. Here are a few gentle practices drawn from the Buddha's teachings, offered in simple form. First, the practice of remembering impermanence. Each morning, you can quietly reflect. Today, things may change. I will meet change with awareness. I will not demand permanence from what cannot provide it. Second, the practice of mindful breathing. When you notice tension, return to the breath, not as a trick to escape, but as a place to stand. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. This simple knowing calms the mind because it brings you back to what is real. Third, the practice of seeing craving. Craving often whispers, "If I get this, I will finally be okay." Or it whispers, "If I lose this, I will not survive." When you hear the whisper, you can say, "Craving is here. Fear is here." And you can watch it like you watch clouds move. Fourth, the practice of compassion. When you are hurt by someone's words, remember, people act from their own pain, their own confusion, their own history. This does not excuse harm, but it frees your heart from carrying their poison. Fifth, the practice of wholesome effort. Because life is impermanent, you do not waste it. You do what is good while you can. You speak kindly. You repair what you can repair. You learn. You forgive. You create. You help. You rest when you must. You keep going. Effort without attachment feels light. It feels like walking with a clear purpose, not dragging a heavy chain. A woman once said, "I cannot forgive what was done to me. It is too much. If I forgive, it means it was okay." A teacher answered gently, Forgiveness does not mean what happened was okay. Forgiveness means you stop letting what happened control your present. It means you stop drinking poison and calling it justice. The woman was silent. She realized she had been holding pain as proof of loyalty to her past. But the past was already gone. Her holding did not change it. It only repeated it. She began to practice. At first, she could only say, "I am willing to be willing." Then she could say, "I do not want to suffer like this anymore." Then slowly, she felt a small space. In that space, the heart could breathe again. Impermanence is also in the mind. Even hatred changes. Even grief changes. Even trauma changes. This is not to minimize suffering. It is to remind you that healing is possible. Nothing says you must stay the person you were on the worst day of your life. If these reflections are helping you, you might choose to stay connected with Buddha Peaceful Mind. A simple subscribe can be like placing a small lantern on your path, so these teachings can find you again when you need them. To understand impermanence deeply, the Buddha often pointed to 3 characteristics of experience. The first is impermanence. Everything conditioned changes. Bodies change, feelings change, thoughts change, relationships change, seasons change, societies change. Even mountains are slowly changing. The second is unsatisfactoriness. When we cling to what changes, we suffer. Not because life is wrong, but because clinging is painful. If you hold ice tightly, you will be hurt as it melts. If you demand that a wave stay still, you will be disappointed. The third is non-self. This does not mean you do not exist. It means that what you call self is not a fixed, unchanging thing you can possess. It is a moving process, a flow of body, feelings, perceptions, habits, and awareness. Why is this important? Because we suffer most when we try to protect a rigid self-image. We say, "I must always be seen as successful. I must always be loved. I must always be respected. I must always be right. I must always be in control." But a self-image is fragile. It needs constant approval. It fears criticism. It fears change. It fears failure. And it becomes a cage. When you see that you are not a rigid statue, but a living process, something relaxes. You can grow. You can apologize. You can start again. You can be a beginner. You can be wrong without collapsing. You can be praised without swelling. You can be blamed without being destroyed. Non-self is not a philosophy to win debates. It is a key that opens the prison door. Imagine a traveler standing by a river. He looks at the water and thinks, "This river is the same as yesterday." But if he watches carefully, he sees that the water is always different. The surface sparkles, then fades. A leaf floats by and is gone. A current twists and disappears. The traveler realizes, if the river is changing every moment, why do I demand that my life be frozen? Your mind is like that river. A thought is here, then gone. A feeling is here, then gone. Even the breath is never the same twice. When you understand this, you stop taking every mood so personally. You stop believing every thought is a command. You stop making permanent conclusions based on temporary weather. You do not say, "I am always anxious." You say, Anxiety is present now. You do not say, "I am a failure." You say, "Failure happened and it can teach me." You do not say, "I will never be happy." You say, "Happiness arises and passes, and I can cultivate wholesome causes." This shift in language is not a small thing. It is a shift from identity to awareness, from prison to open sky. Let us talk about relationships, because this is where the heart often clings the hardest. We want someone to stay. We want someone to understand us perfectly. We want love without uncertainty. We want a guarantee. But love is living, and what is living is changing. If you cling to a person as if they must complete you, your love becomes heavy. It becomes fear disguised as devotion. It becomes control disguised as care. It becomes jealousy disguised as protection. The Buddha invited us to love with wisdom, to care deeply, and also to respect reality, to cherish a person, and also to know that we do not own them, to appreciate their presence, and also to accept that separation is part of life. This understanding does not make love smaller. It makes love purer, because it removes the hidden bargain. A wise love says, "I wish you well. I will walk with you while we can. I will not trap you, and I will not abandon myself." Impermanence also teaches healthy boundaries, because if everything is changing, it is foolish to sacrifice your whole life to someone else's changing moods. Compassion is not self-destruction. The Buddha taught kindness and wisdom together. When you meet conflict, you can ask, "Am I responding from love or from fear? Am I acting from clarity or from craving? Am I trying to serve what is wholesome, or am I trying to control what cannot be controlled?" In this way, relationships become a place of practice, a place where you learn to hold and to release, a place where you learn to speak truth with gentleness, a place where you learn to forgive without losing yourself. The Buddha once offered an image about suffering. Imagine a handful of salt. If you place it in a small cup of water, the water becomes too salty to drink. But if you place the same salt in a large lake, the lake is still drinkable. The salt is the same. What changed is the size of the container. In the same way, when the mind is narrow, a small insult can ruin the whole day. A small failure can feel like the end of life. A small change can feel like disaster. But when the mind becomes wide through understanding, mindfulness, and compassion, the same events do not poison the whole heart. They are still salt, but the heart is a lake. Impermanence widens the heart. Because you stop demanding that every moment confirm your ego, you stop gripping, you stop fighting reality, and the mind naturally becomes spacious. Now, let us return to a question many people carry quietly. If everything is impermanent, why work hard? Why study? Why build a family? Why practice? Why create anything at all? The Buddha's answer is not, give up. The answer is, understand why you act. If you act only to secure a permanent identity, you will suffer. Because no achievement can make you permanently safe. Even if you climb a mountain, you must still come down. Even if you win applause, the applause will end. Even if you gather wealth, you cannot carry it beyond this life. But if you act from wisdom and compassion, your actions become meaningful regardless of results. You work to provide. You study to understand. You practice to free the mind. You create to share beauty. You help others to reduce suffering. You build good causes, even if you cannot control every outcome. This is what Buddhists call wholesome intention. Effort is still needed. Right effort is one part of the path, but right effort is not desperate effort. It is not effort fueled by fear. It is not effort fueled by ego. It is effort fueled by clarity. You do what is skillful today, and you accept that tomorrow may bring change. A farmer plants seeds. He does not shout at the sky. He waters. He weeds. He protects the field. And then he waits. The harvest comes when conditions are ready. In the same way, you put your effort into the causes, not into controlling the whole universe. This is a peaceful way to be ambitious. Ambitious in goodness, not in grasping. If you feel a little more steady right now, you can support this space quietly. A gentle like helps more people find Buddha peaceful mind, and it keeps these reflections flowing without noise. Thank you for being here. Let us do a longer contemplation together using simple examples. Think of a candle flame. It looks like one flame, but it is changing every moment. Fuel turns to light. Light turns to heat. Heat spreads into the air. If you try to hold the flame, you will be burned. In the same way, you can enjoy the warmth of life without trying to grasp it. Think of your phone. Messages arrive and vanish. A new notification replaces the old. The mind chases the next update as if it will finally satisfy. But satisfaction is brief. The mind wants another. This is not because you are weak. It is because craving is endless when it is not understood. Think of a child growing. One day they want to hold your hand. Another day they pull away. Another day they return. If you cling to one stage, you suffer. If you appreciate each stage, your love becomes more peaceful. Think of the body. You cannot freeze it at one age. You can care for it. You can keep it healthy. But aging happens. So the Buddha taught us not to base our worth on what must change. Think of your moods. Sometimes you wake up bright. Sometimes you wake up heavy. If you believe every mood is permanent, you panic. But if you observe moods as passing states, you can meet them more wisely. When joy arises, enjoy it fully, without fear. When sadness arises, be kind to it, without drowning. When anger arises, see it clearly, without feeding it. When fear arises, breathe with it, without becoming it. This is the art of living with impermanence. The Buddha called this practice insight. Insight is not special visions. It is clear seeing of what is already here. When you see clearly, the mind relaxes. And when the mind relaxes, kindness becomes easier. Because so much cruelty comes from fear. So much harsh speech comes from clinging. So much selfishness comes from the belief that we must grab before we lose. When you understand impermanence, you become more generous because you know you cannot keep everything anyway. So you share while you can. You forgive while you can. You love while you can. You do good while you can. This is how impermanence becomes a teacher, not a threat. A student once admired a teacher's old cup. It was used every day, yet it was cherished. The student asked, "Why do you use such a fragile cup? Aren't you afraid it will break?" The teacher answered, "I see this cup as already broken, so every day I drink from it. I am grateful. When it breaks, I will not be surprised. I will not pretend life betrayed me. I will sweep the pieces and return to what remains." This does not mean the teacher felt nothing. It means the teacher was aligned with reality. When you live as if everything you love is guaranteed, you are always unprepared. When you live with awareness of impermanence, you are more present, not more depressed. You can look at someone you love and silently think, "This moment is precious." Not because you are afraid, but because you are awake. And the strange gift is this: when you stop demanding permanence, you stop wasting the present. Many people today live with anxiety. The mind is always anticipating the next loss. It rehearses disasters. It tries to control the future. Impermanence can help anxiety, but only if it is understood properly. Some people use impermanence to scare themselves. They say, "Everything will end, so I must panic." That is not wisdom. Wisdom says, because the future is uncertain, I will be here now. Because I cannot control everything, I will control what I can. My intention, my actions, my response. Because outcomes change, I will commit to wholesome causes. Because people change, I will practice patience and clear communication. Because I will die, I will not waste my life in endless worry. The Buddha taught that worry is often craving in disguise. It is the craving for certainty. It is the craving for control. When you see that, you can soften. You can tell the mind, "Thank you for trying to protect me, but I cannot live inside a prediction. I will live inside this breath. One breath, then the next." This is how the mind returns to peace. Calmness is built this way, not as a grand achievement, as a daily returning. The Buddha said that holding anger is like holding a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned first. Anger often arises from clinging to respect, clinging to control, clinging to how things should be. When reality does not obey, the mind heats up. When you remember impermanence, you can ask, will this matter in a year? Will this matter in a day? Will this matter in 1 hour? Sometimes the answer is yes, and you must address it wisely. But many times the answer is no, and you can release it. Even when you must address harm, you do not need to carry hatred. You can speak firmly without burning your own hands. You can put the coal down. And when you put it down, you feel the coolness of freedom. If you would like, we can do a simple meditation together while listening. Sit in a way that feels stable. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw relax. Feel the body as it is. Bring attention to the breath. Notice where it is most clear. At the nostrils, at the chest, at the belly. Do not control the breath. Just know it. Breathing in, know you are breathing in. Breathing out, know you are breathing out. Thoughts will come. That is normal. When a thought comes, you do not need to chase it. You do not need to fight it. You can simply recognize thinking and return to the breath. Feelings will come. That is normal. When a feeling comes, you can recognize feeling and return to the breath. Each time you return, you are practicing freedom. You are learning that you can let things arise and pass without clinging. This is the training that makes calmness natural, not forced, natural. If the mind becomes quiet, enjoy the quiet without clinging. If the mind becomes busy, be kind to the busyness without judging. Everything passes, even this moment. So be here. The Buddha taught that life unfolds through causes and conditions. Things do not happen randomly. They happen because conditions come together. This is why effort matters. Even though outcomes are impermanent, causes still work. If you plant wholesome causes, wholesome fruits are more likely. If you plant unwholesome causes, suffering grows. So impermanence is not hopeless. It is workable. Because if things were permanent, you could never change. If anger were permanent, you could never heal. If confusion were permanent, you could never wake up. If suffering were permanent, liberation would be impossible. Impermanence is what makes transformation possible. This is why the Buddha taught the Noble Eightfold Path: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. Each part is a way of planting causes. You cannot command results, but you can shape conditions. You may not control whether people praise you, but you can control whether you speak truth with kindness. You may not control whether you are blamed, but you can control whether you act ethically. You may not control how long someone stays, but you can control whether you love wisely while they are here. This is dignity. This is freedom. Someone once told me a story about heartbreak. They said, after the relationship ended, I felt like I had lost my future. I kept thinking, if only I had said this, if only I had done that. I tried to rewrite the past. I could not sleep. My mind was a courtroom, and I was both the judge and the prisoner. Then one day, I heard a simple phrase from the Buddha's teaching. Do not cling to what has already passed. At first, I thought, how can I not cling when my heart hurts? But I tried a small practice. Each time the mind replayed the past, I would say, this is remembering. And I would return to my breath. Sometimes I cried. Sometimes I felt nothing. Sometimes I felt anger. But slowly, the story became less sticky. The mind learned to let go. I did not forget the love. I did not pretend it never happened. But I stopped using it as a weapon against myself. Then I could see something else. I could see what I learned. I could see how I grew. I could see what I still needed to heal. And because everything changes, I could feel hope again. Not the hope that the past will return, but the hope that I can live well now. Heartbreak taught me impermanence, and impermanence taught me a kind of peace I did not know before. If you would like more gentle talks like this, you can subscribe to Buddha Peaceful Mind. It is a quiet way of saying yes to the path of peace, one teaching at a time. The Buddha spoke often about death, not to make people afraid, but to make them awake. Death is the clearest teacher of impermanence. Every time we forget, life reminds us. But remembering death can be a doorway to gratitude. If you knew you had a limited number of sunsets left, would you waste them in resentment? If you knew you had a limited number of conversations left, would you speak carelessly? If you knew you had a limited number of breaths left, would you spend them only worrying? This reflection is not meant to pressure you. It is meant to free you. You do not need to wait for a tragedy to become present. You can become present now. You can forgive now. You can say thank you now. You can put the phone down and look into someone's eyes now. You can take a walk and feel the air now. You can practice kindness now. Impermanence is asking you, what will you do with today? And the Buddha's path answers, I will live with awareness. I will act with compassion. I will let go of what I cannot hold. In Buddhism, there is a beautiful quality called equanimity. It is not coldness. It is not distance. It is balance. Equanimity means the heart can stay steady in the middle of changing conditions. Pleasure comes, you enjoy it without clinging. Pain comes, you meet it without collapsing. Praise comes, you receive it without arrogance. Blame comes, you listen without hatred. Equanimity is like a mountain. Storms pass around it, but it does not run away. How does equanimity grow? Not by pretending storms do not exist, by understanding impermanence, by understanding causes and conditions, by understanding that you cannot own outcomes. When you truly see that everything changes, you stop betting your peace on temporary things. You still care, but you care with wisdom. And wisdom feels light. It feels like breathing. The Buddha spoke about 8 worldly winds that blow through every human life. Gain and loss, praise and blame, fame and disrepute, pleasure and pain. When these winds blow, the untrained mind is thrown around. A little gain makes it excited. A little loss makes it desperate. A little praise makes it proud. A little blame makes it angry. A little pleasure makes it cling. A little pain makes it panic. But when the mind sees impermanence, it becomes less shaken. It says, this is a wind. Winds come and go. If you are experiencing gain right now, enjoy it, but do not build your identity on it. Ask, how can I use this gain to do good? How can I share? How can I be grateful? If you are experiencing loss right now, do not add the second arrow. Ask, what is still possible? What is still wholesome? Who can I be in this moment? If you are receiving praise, receive it with humility. Ask, can I keep my heart kind? Can I stay grounded? If you are receiving blame, listen with honesty. Ask, is there something to learn? If the blame is true, correct your path. If the blame is false, let it pass. If you are experiencing pleasure, enjoy it with awareness. Do not demand that it stay. If you are experiencing pain, meet it with patience. Do not demand that it disappear instantly. These questions turn life into practice. They turn impermanence into stability. Not stability of conditions, but stability of heart. A young man once looked into a mirror and hated what he saw, not because his face was ugly, but because his mind was full of harsh comparison. He compared himself with others and felt less. He demanded that his body be a fixed ideal. But the body is not a statue. It is a living process. He visited a temple and spoke to an elder. The elder listened and said, "You are trying to be permanent in a world that is changing. Even beauty changes. Even strength changes. Even youth changes. The elder offered him a simple practice. Each day, look at yourself with kindness, not with pride, not with hatred, with kindness. And remember, this body is borrowed. It will return to nature. At first, the young man felt sadness. Then he felt relief, because he stopped trying to win a battle that no one can win. He started caring for his body as a friend, not as a project to prove worth. He exercised, he rested, he ate well, but without obsession. His mind became gentler. When you understand impermanence, you stop attacking yourself for changing. You treat yourself like a human being, and that is the beginning of peace. Regret is another form of clinging. It clings to a past that cannot be changed. The Buddha did not say, ignore your mistakes. He said, learn, make amends, and begin again. If you did harm, acknowledge it. Apologize if you can. Repair if you can. And commit to a different action today. But do not keep punishing yourself forever. Punishment is not wisdom. It is often pride disguised as morality. It says, my mistake is so special that I must suffer endlessly. But suffering endlessly does not help anyone. The Buddha taught that the present moment is the place of transformation. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, now. So you can say, I begin again. This is one of the most powerful sentences on the path. Because everything is impermanent, you can always begin again. When you understand impermanence, you also understand people. You see that every person is shaped by causes and conditions. Family, culture, education, trauma, loss, love, fear, hope. You realize everyone is carrying something. Everyone has wounds you cannot see. Everyone is trying, in their own confused way, to be safe and to be happy. This insight does not make you naive. It makes you compassionate. When someone speaks harshly, you can remember, this is their mind state right now. It will pass. I do not need to swallow it. When someone praises you, you can remember, this is their mood right now. It will pass. I do not need to cling. When someone leaves, you can remember, this is the nature of conditions. People come and go. I can mourn, and I can continue living. Compassion is the fruit of understanding. It is not a forced smile. It is a natural softness that arises when you stop making everything personal. When the heart stops demanding that others be exactly as you want, the heart becomes lighter. And in that lightness, peace begins. There is an old image often used in Buddhist teaching. In the dark, a person sees a rope on the ground and thinks it is a snake. Fear rises, the body tenses, the mind panics. But when a lamp is brought, the person sees it is only a rope. Nothing outside changed, only understanding changed. Much of our suffering is like that. We see impermanent things and imagine they must be permanent. We see changing emotions and imagine they define us. We see uncertain futures and imagine disaster as certainty. When wisdom is the lamp, the rope becomes a rope. Life is still life, but fear becomes smaller. The Buddha's teaching is not about making the world perfect. It is about turning on the lamp. Now, let us practice letting go in a simple way. Bring to mind something you are holding tightly. It might be a situation, a relationship, a fear about the future, a regret about the past. a need to be understood, a need to be praised, a need to control. You do not need to force it away. Just notice the holding. Notice what it feels like in the body. Maybe the chest is tight. Maybe the stomach is heavy. Maybe the throat is tense. Now, with the out-breath, soften a little. Not to lose care, but to lose the grip. You can repeat gently in your mind, I can care without clinging. I can act without controlling. I can love without owning. If tears come, let them come. If resistance comes, let it be. Everything is allowed to arise, and everything is allowed to pass. Now bring to mind someone who is also struggling. Maybe someone close. Maybe someone you do not even like. Remember, they too live under impermanence. They too fear loss. They too want happiness. You can wish quietly. May you be free from unnecessary suffering. May you find peace. May you be safe. May you be well. Notice how the heart changes when it releases grip and grows in compassion. This is the direction of the path. Release and kindness together. The Buddha organized his teaching in a simple way, like a doctor caring for a patient. He spoke of 4 truths, not as beliefs, but as realities to be seen. First, there is suffering. Not only obvious suffering, like illness or grief, but the subtle dissatisfaction that comes from clinging in a changing world. Even when life is good, we fear it will change. Even when we succeed, we fear we will fall. This anxiety is also suffering. Second, there is a cause of suffering. The Buddha called it craving. Craving for pleasure, craving for permanence, craving for control, craving to be someone, craving to get rid of what we dislike. Craving is the tight fist around life. Third, there is an end of suffering. Not the end of pain in the body, but the end of unnecessary suffering in the mind. When craving is understood and released, the heart becomes free. This freedom is not a fantasy. It is a lived peace. Fourth, there is a path leading to the end of suffering. The path is training. Training the mind to see clearly. Training the heart to act kindly. Training the body to live in a wholesome way. Impermanence is woven through all 4 truths. Because things change, suffering appears when we cling. Because things change, freedom is possible when we release. Because things change, training can transform us. So the Buddha's message is not, life is impermanent, so give up. His message is, life is impermanent, so wake up. There is another story that speaks to the mind's habit of chasing control. A man is struck by a poisoned arrow. His friends rush to help and call a doctor, but the man refuses treatment. He says, first, I must know who shot the arrow. Was he tall or short? Was he rich or poor? What kind of bow did he use? What kind of feathers were on the arrow? From which village did he come? The doctor says, if you wait for all these answers, you will die. The Buddha used this image to show that some questions, while interesting, do not lead to freedom. When we suffer, the mind often tries to control the mystery of life. It wants perfect explanations before it can rest. But wisdom says, treat the wound, end the second arrow. Practice. Breathe. Act skillfully now. You do not need to solve the entire universe in order to find peace. You need to see clearly what is happening in your mind, right here. You need to release the clinging that turns pain into prolonged suffering. This is the courage of the path, to stop demanding certainty before you live. Now let us bring the Dharma into ordinary scenes. You are in traffic. Someone cuts in front of you. Anger rises. The mind says, they should not do that. The mind wants control. In that moment, you can practice. You can notice, anger is here. You can feel the heat in the body. You can breathe. You can choose not to add the second arrow. You may still drive carefully. You may still protect your safety. But you do not have to burn yourself with rage. You are at work. A meeting goes badly. A colleague criticizes your idea. The mind tightens. It wants to defend. It wants to prove. It wants to be right. You can pause and remember the worldly wins. Praise and blame are wins. This moment is changing. My worth is not in one meeting. I can listen, learn, respond, and move on. You are at home with family. A loved one is moody. They speak sharply. The mind wants to strike back. But you remember, people carry their own causes and conditions. This mood will pass. I can set a boundary without hatred. I can speak calmly without swallowing poison. You are on social media. You post something and wait for likes. Or you read comments and feel small. Or you compare your life with someone else's highlight reel. The mind becomes restless. In that moment, you can remember, this is changing weather. These numbers do not measure my heart. This comparison is suffering. I can put the phone down. I can return to real life. I can return to one breath. You see, impermanence is not only a topic for temples, it is a tool for every moment. A calm mind is built the way a muscle is built. Small repetitions, daily training, gentle consistency. No one becomes peaceful by winning an argument with reality. Peace grows when we stop arguing and start understanding. There is a story that the Buddha once came upon a monk lying in his own filth, sick and abandoned. Other monks had avoided him because they were uncomfortable. The Buddha asked, "Who will care for this monk?" Then the Buddha himself helped clean him. He washed him with his own hands. He showed the community that compassion is not a concept, it is action. Afterward, the Buddha taught the monks, "Whoever would care for me should care for the sick." Why is this relevant to impermanence? Because sickness reminds us that bodies change, and because fear of sickness often makes the heart hard. When you accept impermanence, your heart becomes more willing to help. You do not look away from suffering as if it is someone else's problem. You see, today it is you. Tomorrow, it may be me. We are all under the same sky of change. This understanding does not make you weak. It makes you human. It makes you brave enough to show up. Another story from the Buddha's time speaks about how the mind can break when it tries to cling to what must change. A woman named Patakara experienced unbearable loss. Her husband died. Her children died. In a short time, everything she leaned on vanished. Her mind collapsed into shock and confusion. People mocked her and turned away. She wandered until she reached the Buddha. Instead of rejecting her, the Buddha spoke with great tenderness. He helped her return to awareness, to dignity, to the present moment. Through practice, her mind healed. She became a nun, and later she was known for her deep understanding. The point of this story is not that loss is easy. The point is that the mind can recover. Even after the darkest storms, clarity can return, because the mind is also impermanent. Pain does not have to be your permanent home. When you hear stories like this, let them plant one seed in you. No matter what you are going through, change is possible. Healing is possible. Freedom is possible. It is important to understand the difference between letting go and giving up. Giving up is when the heart becomes dull. It says, "Nothing matters, so why try?" It is the collapse of energy. Letting go is the release of clinging. It says, "I will do what is wholesome, and I will not chain my peace to outcomes." It is not dull, it is alive. Imagine holding sand in your hand. If you squeeze tightly, the sand slips out faster. If you open your hand, the sand can rest there for a while. Your life is like that sand. The more you squeeze, the more you suffer. The more you open, the more you can actually feel what is there. Or imagine a soap bubble. If you poke it, it bursts. If you hold it gently, it floats and shines. The Buddha's path is the gentle hand, not the squeezing hand, and not the hand that throws everything away. The gentle hand that holds with wisdom. There is a small story that many teachers use to explain clinging. A hunter wants to catch a monkey. He places a narrow jar on the ground with sweet fruit inside. The opening is just wide enough for the monkey's hand to enter. The monkey reaches in, grabs the fruit, and makes a fist. Now the fist is too large to pull back out through the opening. The monkey could be free in 1 second by simply opening the hand and letting the fruit go. But it will not. It screams, it pulls, it panics, it clings, and because it clings, it is trapped. Many of us live like that monkey. We cling to a relationship that is already hurting us. We cling to an image of success that is crushing our health. We cling to being right even when it destroys peace. We cling to control, even when control is impossible. The jar is not life. The jar is our own fist. The Buddha's teaching is the invitation to open the hand, not because you do not care, but because you want to be free. Sometimes the mind says, "If I let go, I will lose everything." But look carefully. Often what you lose is not everything. Often what you lose is only the fruit of craving. What you gain is your life back. Open the hand. Feel the relief. Feel the space. That space is where wisdom can speak. A very practical place to practice non-clinging is speech. Many conflicts last for days because of one sentence spoken in a tight mind. The Buddha taught right speech, truthful, kind, helpful, and timely. Before speaking, you can ask 4 simple questions. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Is this the right time? When you speak from clinging, you speak to win. You speak to control. You speak to protect an image. When you speak from understanding, you speak to connect. You speak to clarify. You speak to reduce suffering. Impermanence helps right speech because it reminds you that words cannot be taken back. A moment passes quickly, but a harsh sentence can echo in someone's heart for a long time. So you slow down, you breathe, you choose. Even if you must say no, You can say it without cruelty. Even if you must correct someone, you can correct them without humiliation. Even if you are hurt, you can speak with honesty and still keep your dignity. This is how peace is built in families. This is how peace is built at work. This is how peace is built inside you. Each time you choose right speech, you are opening the hand. You are letting go of the fruit of ego, and you are freeing yourself. If you would like to go deeper, we can do a longer practice that teaches impermanence through the body. Bring attention to the top of the head. Notice any sensations. Tingling, warmth, pressure, nothing at all. Whatever is there, let it be there. Move awareness to the forehead. Notice tightness, softness, movement. Thoughts may appear. Let them pass. Bring awareness to the eyes. Let the muscles around the eyes relax. Notice that even relaxation is a changing experience. Bring awareness to the jaw. Soften the jaw. If there is tension, you do not need to fight it. You can observe it. Tension is also impermanent. It can be known. It can change. Bring attention to the throat. Notice swallowing. Notice the breath passing. This body is alive. This aliveness is precious. This aliveness is changing. Bring awareness to the shoulders. Many people store burdens there. Notice the weight. With each out-breath, allow the shoulders to drop a little. Not all at once, little by little. Bring attention to the arms. Feel the upper arms, the elbows, the forearms, the hands, the fingers. Feel how sensation is not one solid thing. It is a dance of small impressions, coming and going. Bring awareness to the chest. Notice the rise and fall of breathing. Notice the heartbeat if you can. Beat by beat, the body is changing. Bring awareness to the belly. Notice movement. Notice how the breath comes by itself. You do not have to force it. Life is happening. Bring attention to the back. Notice contact with the chair or the floor. Notice support. Even support is impermanent. You feel it now, and it changes as you shift. Bring awareness to the hips, the legs, the knees, the calves, the feet. Notice tingling, warmth, pressure. Now, take the whole body at once, a field of changing sensations. No sensation lasts forever. No sensation is you. They arise, they pass. When you rest in this observation, the mind learns a deep lesson. Everything in the body changes, so the mind can stop demanding that experience be fixed. The mind can soften. If you feel pain in the body, notice how it changes. Sometimes it moves. Sometimes it pulses. Sometimes the edges soften. Sometimes the mind adds stories and the pain becomes heavier. When you drop the story, the pain becomes simpler. This practice does not make you deny pain. It helps you stop adding the second arrow. Stay with the body like you would stay with a friend, with respect, with gentleness, with patience. And as you do, you may discover a quiet calm beneath the surface. Not a forced calm, a natural calm that comes from seeing clearly. Another simple practice is walking meditation. When you walk, you can walk as if you have nowhere else to go. Not because you are lazy, but because you are awake. Feel the lifting of the foot, the moving, the placing down. One step, then another. The mind will wander. It will plan. It will remember. It will worry. Each time you notice, return to the feeling of walking. Return to the earth under you. Return to this step. Walking meditation teaches impermanence in a very kind way. Each step appears and disappears. You cannot keep a step. You can only take it. This is also life. You cannot keep yesterday. You can only live today. When you walk like this, even a short walk becomes a Dharma talk. Even a road becomes a teacher. The Buddha taught loving kindness, a practice that softens the heart and makes it wide. Start with yourself. Place a hand on the chest if you like, not as a performance, but as a simple human gesture. Say quietly in your mind, "May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I be healthy. May I be free." If your mind argues, if it says you do not deserve it, notice that as a passing thought. Return to the phrases gently. Then bring to mind someone who has helped you, a teacher, a friend, a family member, someone whose kindness you remember. Say, "May you be safe. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you be free." Then bring to mind a neutral person, someone you see sometimes, a cashier, a neighbor, a stranger on the street. Say, "May you be safe. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you be free." Then bring to mind someone difficult. Not someone who has done extreme harm, but someone who triggers your irritation. Remember, they too are under impermanence. They too want happiness. They too do not want pain. Say, "May you be safe. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you be free." You may not feel warmth immediately. That is okay. This is training. You are planting causes. Loving kindness is not pretending everything is fine. It is choosing not to add hatred to the world. When the heart practices loving kindness, it becomes like the lake. It becomes large, and then, even when salt is added, the lake is still drinkable. This is how compassion and impermanence work together. Impermanence tells you, this life is brief. Compassion tells you, use it to reduce suffering. At the end of the day, you can practice a gentle reflection. Ask yourself, what did I cling to today? Was it control? Was it praise? Was it being right? Was it an image of myself? Then ask, where did I let go today, even a little? Where did I soften? Where did I choose understanding over reaction? Then ask, what wholesome seed will I plant tomorrow? A kind word, a patient pause, a moment of listening, a small act of generosity, a few minutes of mindful breathing. This reflection is not for guilt. It is for clarity, because clarity leads to freedom. And remember, tomorrow is not guaranteed, so do not postpone goodness. Do not postpone love. Do not postpone peace. Practice now, gently. Imagine a potter working with clay. The clay is wet and soft. The potter shapes it with steady hands. If the potter is impatient, the clay collapses. If the potter is careless, the shape becomes uneven. But if the potter is attentive, the clay becomes a vessel that can hold water. Your mind is like that clay. Each day, conditions shape it. The words you speak, the food you eat, the media you consume, the people you spend time with, the actions you repeat. Impermanence means your mind is not fixed. So you can shape it. You can train it. You can become kinder. You can become calmer. You can become wiser. Do not underestimate small habits. A small habit repeated becomes a life. The Buddha's path is the art of shaping the mind with awareness. Not to become perfect, to become free. So when life changes, and it will, remember the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is part of life. Suffering is what happens when the mind clings and fights. When you feel shaken, return to the simplest truths. This moment is changing. This feeling is changing. This thought is changing. I can breathe. I can be kind. I can choose the next skillful step. And over time, something quiet but powerful happens. The heart becomes less reactive, not because you have suppressed emotions, but because you have outgrown the need to be at war with reality. This is what it means when people say the calm person is calm without trying. It is not that nothing touches them. It is that they do not turn every touch into a wound. They do not add the second arrow. They do not squeeze life until it slips away. They live with open hands. And because their hands are open, they can also give. They can comfort. They can forgive. They can serve. They can love. This is peace with strength. As we come toward the end of this talk, remember the simple truth. Everything changes. That is the nature of conditioned life. But your response can change too. That is the power of practice. You do not need to force calmness. You cultivate understanding, and calmness follows. You stop firing the second arrow, and pain becomes more workable. You stop clinging to praise and blame, and the heart becomes free. You stop trying to freeze life, and you start living it. Impermanence does not steal meaning. It reveals meaning. It invites you to be here, to be kind, to be wise, to do what is wholesome while you can. If you are going through a hard season, may you be gentle with yourself. If you are in a good season, may you be grateful without fear. If you feel lost, may you remember that change is always possible. One breath at a time, one kind action at a time, one moment of letting go at a time. Thank you for spending this time with Buddha Peaceful Mind. May these words be a raft for you. May your heart be steady. May your mind be peaceful. And may you live fully with open hands.